fuck, man. I really struggled during lockdown, man. I fucking went crazy. I peed myself one night. Peed myself. I was up late at night. I was watching a Netflix documentary, not the Magic Mushroom one. It was another one. Has anybody seen this? It's called My Octopus Teacher. You seen this? Did you like it? You're shaking your head. No, you did? What did you like about it? It's quite short. Yeah. Is that why you like me? If you haven't, this guy likes it. If you haven't seen it, it's a documentary about this guy who's shagging an octopus, right? They never show you him shagging it, and he never says he's shagging it, but you can tell. You know, he's always like, it's about this guy who like goes to see this octopus every day of his life, and it's like changed his life. He's like, every day I go down to the coral reef and I see the octopus, and he brushes my nipple with his beak, and he puts his tentacle in my belly button. Yeah, like he's 100% shagging that thing. I'm glad you enjoyed it. You know? Do you know what made me dislike him though? There's a bit in it where they're interviewing him and he goes, before I met the octopus, I had nothing in my life. But then, now I see the octopus every day, and I know who I am. And then it cuts to like an interview with that guy's wife and child. And they're like, we can fucking hear you through the wall. What the fuck? You know? But I fucking know what he means, man. Sometimes it's a silly thing that gives your life meaning, you know? I know my octopus is stand-up, man. I was 18 years old in Magaluf. Nobody wanted to even look at me. Never mind touch me, you know? And then I came home and I went to uni and then I fucking dropped out because I went mental. I didn't know who I fucking was, man. But then last month of being 19, I signed up for a stand-up thing in Glasgow called Red Raw. It's like a beginner's comedy night at the Stand Comedy Club. And I went up, you only get 5 minutes in front of 200 people, and you go up, and I went up, and I only lasted 3 minutes, and then I ran out of jokes. Do you want to hear one of my first ever closer? Yeah, it's not good. You know, I went up there and I was like, imagine me, 19, right? Just somehow even more like a fetus. And I was up there and I was like, oh, I really don't like being alive just now, because nothing's changed. You know, the issue I have is I find it very difficult to grow hair on my face, you know? I'd really like to have a mustache or a beard, but I don't have one, you know? And it really frustrates me because I have a very hairy arse. You know? I mean, I can't grow anything up here, but down here it looks like I've sat in a vat of wallpaper glue and got a rim job off Chewbacca. Pretty good for a first joke. You know? And honestly, I still can't grow a beard, and the arse is worse. So I went up, 3 minutes, came off early, host was raging, he had to like fucking run back up, you know? And then I was like, oh, that felt amazing to do that, man, you know? And I went down to the Kelvin Bridge subway station next to the Stand Comedy Club, and I was just standing there on the platform, and I was just like buzzing, felt alive for the first time in my life, man. I was like, this is amazing, you know? And then this girl came up to me, and she was like, you were really funny. And I was like, I'm gonna do this every day for the rest of my life. And then I did. For like 7 years, like every chance I could get. I went to Canada to do stand-up. That's how I found out about the goof thing. I went to Australia. That's how I got together with my girlfriend. Like, it completely changed my life. And then lockdown came. Couldn't do stand-up anymore. So I thought I was happy. I didn't like myself. I just liked my job, you know? And it was illegal to do stand-up during lockdown. It was illegal to do stand-up in lockdown. Indoors. You could do some outdoor shows. They were hard. Did anybody go to a drive-in comedy show? No. Nobody went. They fucking sucked. That's the thing I like about stand-up is like, I'm a person, you're a person, like we're sharing a wee moment together, it's nice. Like, we shared the moment, you like that documentary about the guy who's shagging an octopus, you know? Like, you're from Brisbane? Brisbane. You know, we're all just sharing a wee moment together. Do you know what I mean? It's like a snowflake that's fell out of the cloud and landed on your tongue, and it just melts forever, you know, unless you captured it on film. But a lot of times you don't. You know? See, when you're doing stand-up and there's no people there, it's just cars. Felt like I was doing a private show for Lightning McQueen's stag do. It was so impersonal, man. You know, it was just headlights coming back at me. I tried to make it more personal. I was like, oh, give me a honk if you've ever had mental health problems. Just one guy in a Citroen Berlingo, like, wasn't even an audience member, just an Uber driver who got lost. And I went home after the drive-in show, went to my bedroom, watched the documentary, fucking pissed myself. I remember, you ever done this? You ever disassociated? I floated above myself on the couch and I looked down, I saw me watching the guy with the octopus, and I looked down at myself and I saw this big damp patch. And I was like, what the fuck's happened there? And I like went, like Doctor Strange, just like back in my body. And I like touched it and it was warm. I was like, oh, it's pee. And I smelled it. I was like, it's pee, it's pee, it's pee. I was like, what am I going to do? And I was up late at night. Basically, me and my girlfriend, my Australian girlfriend, we were taking life in shifts. She was waking up at 7, working from home 8 to 5. I was waking up at 4 p.m, staying up till 6 in the morning. You know, it wasn't good. And as she was asleep to get up for work in the morning, and it was like 3, 4 in the morning, I was pissed. And I went through to my bedroom, and I was just digging around in my dirty washing trying to find just a clean pair of clothes, but I hadn't done the washing in like 6 weeks because couldn't bring myself. What was the fucking point? I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. You know what I mean? I was just like, fucking hell, man. My girlfriend woke up and she was like, oh. You know, because she's a parrot. You know, she just woke up and she went, oh, what's going on? I was like, I've peed myself. She was like, oh no. She went back to sleep, man, you know. I was like, I didn't know what to do, you know, and it's hard because there's a big waiting list to speak to people, you know, but I was like, fuck it, man, you know, that's what they say. They say, just talk to someone. That's what they say, just talk to someone. I think they should change that to talk to the right person. Don't just talk to anybody. Some people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I have these pals, right, and they're like keto people. They're like the gut-mind connection, you know. They're always talking about like don't eat bread. I said to my pals, like, I'm really fucking depressed. And he was like, have you tried cutting bread out your diet? I was like, I don't think that's going to help the fact I don't love myself. And bread's the only thing fucking keeping me going, you know. I ended up talking to my mum about it. Jesus Christ, man, she doesn't know me, you know. It's my mum. You know, she brought it up. Basically, when you could go around to your mum and dad's again, I went around with my girlfriend, and me and my girlfriend went to my mum and dad's house. My girlfriend and my dad stayed in the house. Me and my mum went to go pick up some Chinese food from a place in Bailson Main Street called Tiger Lee. If you're ever in the area, phenomenal salt and chili chicken balls. And we were driving there, and I was in the passenger seat, and my mum was in the driver's seat. She was driving, and she went, listen, I've been speaking to people in my work, and they say that apparently now you need to talk to your kids about mental health, and I don't know anything about that because I grew up in the 70s, and we don't talk about stuff like that. But, you know, your girlfriend told me that you peed yourself. And then I told everybody in my work that you peed yourself. And they think I should talk to you about it. I was like, okay, Mum, a lot of what you said makes me quite upset there. But, yeah, you know, I'm not doing too good with the old mental health. I just don't know who I am. You know, I've lost my job. And she was like, well, I know where you're coming from. And I was like, how would you know what I'm talking about? You work for the taxis. You know, she works for the Glasgow taxis on the phones. And then I remembered, oh, my mum would know what I'm talking about. My mum was a hairdresser. That's how she met my dad. But then one day in the early 90s, just before I was born, my mum woke up one day and she was allergic to bleach. So she just couldn't be a hairdresser anymore because it was the 90s and everybody was getting, highlights, Like, what do you do, Australian guy? What's your job?
I have a pub.
You have a pub? Imagine you woke up one day and you were allergic to drunk cunts, Oh, you are? Fuck, man. It would be tragic, wouldn't it? And it was tragic. And I was like, well, how did you deal with it? She was like, you just got to move on with your life and you got to find things to love about yourself that isn't your work, And I was like, oh my God, this is fucking beautiful, man, And I thought, okay, I've had a lovely chat with my mum about this. Ended up speaking to my dad, man, and he's a hairdressing goth biker, And I had to have a chat with him. He's old school, man. He's an old school guy. And I was really scared my dad was going to die during COVID. I was really scared. Because he's not exactly the best breather in town. He's a wheezy guy. Like, do you know the penguin for Toy Story 2? He's like a wee wheezy guy up on the shelf, and he's like, like that's what my dad's like. He's asthmatic. Is that right? How would you say asthmatic? Just asthmatic sounds like a fake arse. Got the asthmatic if you want to try it. Like, just no. My dad's asthmatic, right? And he's even worse than that. A couple of years ago, he had pleurisy. That's how old-fashioned he is. All his diseases are Victorian. He had pleurisy, which is this weird illness where your lungs fill up with liquid, right? And he drained them, but the drainage left scarring. So he's like, he's a terrible breather. And then who shows up in town? Fucking Johnny Coronavirus. The disease that kills cunts that can't breathe, right? I'm like, my dad's a fucking goner, man, And then one of my friends' dads died just before COVID, and he said to me, do you know, one of my biggest regrets is I never told my dad I loved him enough. And I was like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to be the fucking difference here, all right? I'm going to break the chain of male suffering. I'm going to tell my dad I love him. So I went round my mum and dad's house again, another Chinese. That's pretty much all we do. And I showed up at the house. My mum went, you better go see your dad because he's in a bit of a bad mood. And I was like, fucking hell, man. This must be bad, because he's always in a bad mood. And I went through to the room. He was sitting there in a dressing gown, or a house coat, depending on what you call it. He was sitting there in his dressing gown, and he was watching Stargate SG-1. And I knew something was up, because that's his happy place, He was sitting with his arms folded. I was like, what's up with you? And he was like, I've been a hairdresser for 30 years and now I can't even go to my work because of this fucking pandemic. I was like, for fuck's sake. He was one of the guys who refused to wear a mask, like a proper mask, so he would wear like a visor. It's like, you're not fucking welding, The disease isn't sparks. And I don't think enough fuss was made about this. Why was nobody talking about the hairdryer during COVID? That thing was shooting hot air. It's like a ray gun. It's like a sci-fi hot disease gun. I was worried about him, man, and he was like, I'm fucking been a hairdresser for 30 years, now I can't even fucking do it. I don't know who I am anymore. And I was like, I'm in the exact same fucking boat. We had a great chat about it. And then I was like, I've softened him up, a couple of body blows. Working the kidneys. You only have one kidney, but softening him up, man. Now I'm going to fucking tell him I love him. So after the Chinese, we were watching like Master Chef or something, and he was like, I fucking hate that bald guy in this. I was like, okay, he's feeling better. That's and then I went to leave, and me and my girlfriend were leaving. Went up to my mom, gave her a cuddle, kiss on the cheek, went, love you, mum. And she went, love you. I went, all right. Went up to my dad. I didn't give him a cuddle. Gave him a hug. It's very different. Cuddle's more like, whereas this is more like diagonal. A hug's that's like a sash, for a beauty queen, not the orange order, right? A mayoral sash. I gave him that, and I didn't kiss him in the fucking cheek, right? I leaned into him, and I went, love you. And he just fucking shook like a wee bus. he went, hit me with a big and I was like, oh my God, that is just as good as an I love you, you know? Because I knew what he meant by that. He was vibrating so hard I could telepathically understand him, you know? He was like, you don't need to tell me you love me. I know you love me. I don't need to tell you I love you. What we do is, once you leave, I tell your mum I'm proud of you, and then she tells you, all right?